Hey everyone, my name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. After this movie, sign me up!
Hey everyone, and welcome back to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast featuring two guys getting Mountain Dew and Doritos and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And thank you to Mike Bohr on Facebook for that wonderful suggestion.
It was great.
Wish we had some Mountain Dew Doritos here with us right now.
I'm sure they'll bring some later.
I wish we had some Mountain Dew Doritos here right now.
That
would help us get some DLC for COD.
Sounds real gross.
But if you have some synonym suggestions for drunk, you can send this to us on Facebook at How Many Fingers Podcast, Instagram How Many Fingers Podcast, Twitter HMF Podcast, Tumblr How Many Fingers Podcast.tumblr.com, email How Many Fingers Podcast at gmail.com, or our website How Many Fingers Podcast.com.
Always mine is like a steel
it's
trap.
A steel fucking trap up here. Nothing gets out.
Or you can just write it on a rock and throw it at your local postman. They will bring it to us.
Whoa, who's that guy? That's not either of our voices.
That's not how the post office works.
That's how it works in Maine.
That was our guest, Kevin Pettijohn. He has driven
all the way to Maine just for this.
I know that I said, like, literally an episode or two ago when we were doing the Riley's guys, and everyone's like, what about Kevin? And I said, well, Kevin lives in Maine. We're not doing him.
Yeah. He'll never come down.
And then Kevin drove down from Maine.
The gauntlet was thrown and Kevin accepted.
Kevin showed up.
Ems was fighting words. I decided to drive all the way down here just for you, Riley.
Actually,
everyone's fighting for Riley's heart.
This is really the beginning of
Riley doesn't know what she got herself
love
into.
Story, yeah. I drove here for you, Riley. In the pouring rain.
I waited for you. I wrote you every day for a year.
I brought you this single white rose to represent our love.
I was just going down the highway at 90 miles per hour, sticking out my sunroof with a boombox, blasting it in the rain. I got a lot of tickets. Riley, you might have to pay for those. I'm just saying. It's part of our love.
We'll work through it. It's whatever.
But Riley, if you like Kevin so much, I believe he's got a new podcast that he's starting up if he wants to plug that.
Oh, shit. Are we doing plugs already?
Yeah, let's get it out
everybody.
there.
Okay.
Open up the plug bag. You can also do it at the end, but go ahead.
We got one for the plug and one for the load.
I got
two phones.
I got two holes. Anyway,
Just two?
I don't have two holes, sadly. That would be great. I only have one. Anyway, so hey everybody, it's me, Kevin Pettijohn. You might have heard me on previous episodes, and I plugged my podcast, I think, on the first episode, and then never made any episodes. I'm sorry about that. But me and my brother Bill are re-releasing our show called Media Boys, and
I love that title. Watch out for the media boys, here they come.
Yeah,
Media boys in the building.
Media boys. Me.
Yeah, it's just
These are all possible theme song ideas.
yes, a lot.
Beaver boys.
Beaver bound.
Oh yeah, Beaver bound.
So we have a Twitter, a Facebook. I'm not sure what the links are. My brother was supposed to send them to me and he didn't. So check the description for those. We also have SoundCloud up, and we'll have episodes coming out this month.
So it's Media Boys with a Z, right? Or
no, it's just an S. We're not that cool. I'm sorry.
Damn it.
Wait, is boys spelled B-O-I-S?
No.
No, come on,
Kevin.
We're trying to stay away from that 4chan cloud, but cloud anyway.
Cloud of Fortune coming in this weekend.
So we have episodes coming out this month. We're doing a 4-part series on the Jurassic Park movies to start things out, and basically it's similar to our old podcast. If you caught any of those episodes, you probably didn't though. It's just kind of about media and the perception of media in society and just how it affects people on a personal level, on a social level and world level, and
Sounds just like How Many Fingers.
yeah, basically.
I'm just noticing because we don't go that deep.
Yeah, we do.
We're some real surface level.
Not that deep.
Yeah, we're gonna be. We do video games, movies, books, just everything. Dick pics.
Very tight. Very tight. Let's cut it off there.
Links to follow. Kevin, you'll get me those links, and then I'll put them in the description, I'm sure, by the time this comes out. So
Hopefully, probably not. I will be sending out smoke signals. Just look northward. That's how we communicate
throwing a
in
rock
Maine.
at the local postman.
Yeah, that's how we communicate in Maine. Just look out for fish flying into your apartment with the Tumblr link on it, and follow that to see probably some bestiality porn, because that's always interesting. But,
right.
you know.
If you couldn't tell, this week we're drinking. We're drinking...
Unlike last week or the week before that.
At Kevin's behest, Suicide Cocktail,
Yes.
which is Coke, rum, and coconut water.
And let's take a drink.
Let's try to get a good
Tastes like a
straw sound.
tastes like a coconutty Coke.
Tastes like it's going to be a good episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
We all had
I
like
put a
one.
little too much rum in mine.
We all drank like half a drink of this earlier, and we're like, "Yeah, let's do this podcast, man."
I mean,
We
let's
were
be,
like, dicks out for Harambe!
Dicks out for Harambe.
I mean, let's be
Who
honest.
listens to this?
Is anybody still out there?
I'd say the
God.
episodes that I'm on are the only episodes that you guys actually drink.
Well, the last episode we were on, Kevin, we almost lost me.
Because Daddy only drinks liquor.
Yeah, we're used to beer. We did not do well with
Every
our
time
liquor.
Kevin comes, he wants to do liquor. Me and Mike are like, "Yeah, sure, we can."
Let's just drink it at the same rate as beer.
We all have no pants on right now, and it's just hands under the table, just grabbing and squeezing.
So the koozies are here.
Speaking of grabbing and squeezing,
Don't want to grab and squeeze on that drink? Well,
Put a koozie between
koozie
you and
on
your
it.
beer.
don't want to grab and squeeze on that boy, put a koozie on him.
We got 10 awesome colors. You can buy them at howmanyfingerspodcast.bigcartel.com or howmanyfingerspodcast.com. There's a web store link on the top right of the page. We're selling them for $5, shipping included. Can't fucking beat that deal. And we've also got a contest going on. If you haven't seen our graphics on our page, we got the official rules there. Kevin's just peeing into a glass. Jesus Christ.
okay, all right.
Kevin's raising the stakes right now.
Kevin's gonna be passed out by the end of this episode. What an episode!
So that's-
Episode number 40!
So that sound you just heard was pure Crown Royal being poured into Kevin's drink. We just poured a tiny bit of Coke, a little splash of Coke. Why even bother at that point?
I'm not driving tonight, it's fine.
You're not driving 10 hours back to Maine tonight.
Dicks out for Harambe!
Dicks out for Harambe! Again! Alright.
All right, let me finish the plug. One for the plug. And the contest we're running, we got some cool prizes. We got a Deadpool Blu-ray.
Alright.
some cool posters. Including, I don't know if we mentioned this in the past podcasts, but we've got posters from our own movie, Less Than 3.
We do.
In the prize pool, as well as a DVD of Less Than 3. I know that's what you guys are really vying for.
But what you guys want, you can watch it on YouTube, so.
Yeah, it's not for free on YouTube, so you want the DVD. I also just want to get them out of my house.
It's still some dope merch, you know?
Yeah.
So if you want to enter that contest, buy one of our koozies at the aforementioned links and take a selfie.
Yeah, we've had a lot of selfies coming in.
We've got one.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. The ones that we took of Nick and Joe aren't really selfies. Those are me.
I know people that are
forcing
saying
it.
they're going to take one soon.
Yes.
So
All right, cool.
and then just tag us on Facebook. Our Facebook is facebook.com/howmanyfingerspodcast. that will enter you to win one of those prizes. And if you look on our Facebook, we've got a graphic with the breakdown of what the grand prize is and whatnot. I'm not going to read that all now. The contest is open until the 25th of August, and then we'll announce the winners picked at random on September 1st in that episode.
Why not September 11th?
It's just
Because Harambe.
because we have to mourn that day. I'm gonna be mourning all day
That's true.
for the.
It's also not a Tuesday or a Thursday.
That's the real reason.
Oh, this episode, man.
This episode, man.
So, Suicide
At
Squad.
one point, I think we did want to talk about this as our 40th episode.
Oh, yeah.
And what a dicks up for Harambe, dicks up for Harambe. Okay.
But that sounds great.
Hey, Mike, have fun editing this.
I don't edit them anymore. I just throw the plugins on and hit export.
Okay, but yeah, what a ride it has been. It's almost coming up. I feel like I've said this to multiple people. It's almost been a year now.
Oh yeah. Well, we've already. I don't know if you saw. If you look on our Instagram, we posted another graphic of the second batch of 16. So we've already doubled what we did in year one,
Right.
which started in November. So not hard to do, but still pretty cool that.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, this has been going on. We've somehow managed, don't want to jinx it, but to put out a knock on wood.
On this corrugated
Yeah, this-
wood from IKEA.
Yeah, wood in air quotes. We've put out an episode once a week, every Thursday. Never on a. I don't even think ever on like a Friday or anything, or just. Dicks up for Harambe, dicks up for Harambe. Yeah. For any of you who are still listening,
I'm very sorry, guys.
Those of
I
you who
always
came
do
here for the
this.
Suicide Squad review. And not just three drunk guys clapping about a dead gorilla.
I think people come for the drunk people clapping, in all honesty.
oh gosh.
God. Next week we're reviewing Cafe Society by Woody Allen.
Join us then. Until then,
This is this.
Until then, take your dicks out. Harambe needs them.
Just tears.
Send your dicks to heaven for Harambe. Cry those sweet angels
We don't
out
know
into a
if
handkerchief.
I don't know if Harambe got into heaven yet, so keep taking those dicks out.
All dogs go to heaven.
So, for the IMDb description this week for Suicide Squad, in case you completely forgot that's
Can
what
I-
we're reviewing or that's
real
what
quick,
we're talking about.
Let's put a new segment in. How about we have the guest guess what the description is?
All right,
And we'll
Kevin.
see how accurate it is.
All right, give me a one
Describe
sentence.
the movie in one sentence.
One sentence. Margot Robbie, that
Wrong. Wrong. The IMDb description is a secret government agency recruits a group of imprisoned supervillains to execute dangerous black ops missions in exchange for clemency.
execute, dangerous, black. That's what this movie is about.
Which inevitably leads
I'm
to
sorry.
chaos.
And chaos.
Oh
There we
wait,
go.
there's another part. Margot Robbie's ass.
Margot
Kevin,
Robbie, ass.
You're right. Why would IMDb put that?
I write for IMDb.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Spoilers.
Well, I would just say that chaos is putting it lightly for this
Certainly
movie.
It certainly.
I've
is.
been lovingly referring to this movie in our podcast chat as Headache Squad. Was just all over the place.
So
But Joe, you got some Joe Knows?
I do very limited, but I'm gonna give
Limited
it to you.
edition Joe Knows?
Limited edition. I have a bunch. I have a overwhelming amount of trivia that I'll sprinkle into our conversation. But like the press for this movie was out of hand. Like they have like list of like 50 people that might have played this character and stuff. It's just like the information about this movie that's out there. Is
Well, they've been
ridiculous.
hyping this for so goddamn
No, this is the
Yeah.
longest. This is this.
one of the longest press cycles I've
Yeah.
ever seen for a
My
movie.
God, it never stopped. Okay, so Suicide Squad was directed by David Ayer, or Ayer, however you want to say it. I'm miking it up right now.
Pulling to me.
Ager.
But Mike Ayer has directed...
Mike Ayer.
Oh, David Ayer. Darn it. This rum's getting to my brain. David Ayer has directed Harsh Times, Street Kings, Blue Lives Matter. Oh, I mean, End of the Watch. Sabotage and Fury. And David Ayer is also credited as a writer on Suicide Squad. He's written a few of those movies that I mentioned before, but some of his past writing credits include The Fast and the Furious.
The original?
The original, 2001.
Oh,
boy!
Shit.
Training Day.
Tell you all about it when I see you again.
Training Day and SWAT.
Yeah, he actually wrote Training Day, which is like...
Well, he was a writer, I think, on Training. I mean, I don't think he wrote any of these by himself.
I'm pretty sure he like wrote... I remember reading that because people were like, I can't believe David Ayer wrote Training Day and then wrote this piece of garbage.
Yeah, I think he was one of multiple writers on that. I don't know.
Yeah, Denzel Washington probably has
Yes,
hand in it.
Denzel Washington sat down.
He was like, okay,
wrote
David
that.
Ayer.
I want an Oscar. Here's what I'm going to be.
David Ayer, let me make you a deal.
Did he get an Oscar for Training Day?
No, I don't think so. Don't quote me on that. I don't know anything.
Harambe ain't got Dookie on me!
I don't know how we're gonna recover. Okay,
This is all downhill from here.
The minute he grabbed that toddler. It's all
Yo, y'all
Like
see
that
that?
Newfound Glory reference.
Y'all see that Harambe trailer in the beginning?
No, what was the
Oh, you didn't
Harambe
see the King Kong trailer?
Oh, they didn't play
I
it
have
before
seen that. Yeah, but I
yeah.
have- that looks tight. I'm into that. This is the third.
They did have the Dunkirk trailer though, which was.
Oh, really?
I
didn't
think
see
that
it
was
on
the first
big
movie
screen.
that it was
I didn't see
before
that
it was
one.
Suicide Squad. They didn't have Dunkirk at your guys?
No, I'm in Maine, so there was just a man playing a banjo really slowly.
That's
You guys want to see my movie?
That's what I was talking about before, Kevin. We were talking about it before, and he was like, "Yeah, like people in Maine were like way too hype for this movie."
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, like I guess they don't have the internet and saw like the reviews."
No, that's literally the case.
Yeah.
I thought they would have had, because Dunkirk. This is the first like movie that the studio sent the trailer out with. It was supposed to premiere before Suicide Squad.
I kind of got into the trailers late. I just saw terrible Wonder Woman trailer.
Yeah,
didn't have
the only ones in Maine were Wonder Woman, Harambe, and
Harambe Island.
I think that was it. There might have been a third one. I don't fucking remember.
Dunkirk trailer looks pretty cool though. You can probably expect us to review that for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying
Sabri's
to get in on that.
Sabri's had a
Oi, Harry!
yeah,
Oh, never mind. Sabri's in on that.
because
I
Harry
love-
Styles is in it.
Harry Styles is in it.
Oh shit. Okay, yeah, she's definitely got that. Are you gonna bring the cardboard cutout in?
This is our fourth guest. But this is the third installment of the DC Extended Universe following Man of Steel and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. The film picks up right after Batman v Superman. Do we want to jump right into the movie?
I don't know. You're leading these notes.
Oh,
boy.
okay. Well, I mean, that's pretty much all. I'll jump into the movie from here, just because that's all I really have for Joe notes. I don't know. I've been trying to cut down on notes. I think I have a notes
I don't know if we want
problem.
to talk about just how badly this was received.
Do you guys want to talk about theater experience too? Because Maine is
You have an
hilarious.
interesting experience.
Oh yeah. So stalling for time while I think. Anyway, yeah, seeing movies in Maine. So as has been said several times, I live in like northern Maine, so my
Canada.
theater doesn't really. Yeah, I'm 45 minutes from Quebec, but I have two movie theaters kind of close to me, and we don't get new movies really. Like most of the movies on this show don't end up being played up here, but big AAA movies like Suicide Squad get a turnout.
This is a big deal.
Yeah, it was a super big deal. So the theater in Bangor, the closest city to me, which is a city in quotation marks, It has a 8-screen theater, and when big movies like this come out, they show it on all screens, and literally like everyone from all the surrounding towns comes in. The entire theater was sold out. They had people selling merch, not even Suicide Squad merch, just like nerd merch. I saw like some Doctor Who posters.
Just like mini Comic-Con at the theater.
Yeah, seriously. And everyone was so psyched. I remember running into one of my classmates, and he was fucking high as a kite, God bless his heart, and he was just like, "Oh, Kevin, what's up?" I was like, "Oh, you seen Suicide Squad?" And he was like, "Yeah, big fan, man." I'm like, "Of Suicide Squad or DC in general?" And he was like, "Superheroes." And I was like,
Movies.
Not what this movie is
I
about.
like moving pictures.
I like when those things
I like when the
move
stuff
around.
is moving on the screen and does stuff to my eyes.
Images. Multiple of them in a row. Almost as if they were moving.
30
Creating
frames
the illusion
per
of
second.
motion before you.
But yeah, completely sold out theater. Everyone was totally into it. If the studio was looking for like the bell curve of where jokes were landing in this movie, 100% in Maine. Everyone fucking loved it.
I had some really landing jokes in my theater. I think almost everything landed. I think maybe that had some sort of impression on me because like I'm gonna go off and say like something that Mike's gonna kill me for, but I almost thought like this was a more reasonable movie than Batman vs Superman.
Shut the fuck up.
because like it had humor that worked a lot, whereas like Batman v Superman, it was just kind of like, that's my mom's name. I probably shouldn't kill you. Like kind of like, I don't know, but that's But I had everybody seemed to enjoy it in my theater. I was like, yeah.
I had a weird theater experience because it was totally packed. This is probably, besides Star Wars, when we saw it opening night, which obviously was going to be a packed theater, this is probably the most packed theater that I've seen for a movie we reviewed on this podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were just not laughing at this movie. Like, it was a pretty quiet theater for most of it, and there was there was a few people that were like laughing out loud, like by themselves, like noticeably, like maybe like 5 to 10 people that were enjoying the movie, and you could tell the rest of the theater was like really not feeling it.
Yeah. And just to add on, usually when I go see movies in Maine, I'm the only person in the theater, which is awesome because movies in Maine are like $5, and it's literally
my experience.
It's literally like having your own personal theater.
Yeah,
which
that's
is great.
That's me every time I see a movie. Really, I don't know. It's just
It's
I feel
usually
like
me and at least one other person in the
Yeah.
theater. I think I've only succeeded like once.
I can just Pee Wee Herman the shit out of these Maine theaters.
But yeah, if you want to talk about reception, it does currently have a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not a good score.
Lower than Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, it's not this. The whole DC extended universe seems to have been getting
Which is, I think,
not good scores.
in context, I think that's
Extended in quotation
really
marks.
really doesn't bode well for DC, because I think a lot of people were looking to Suicide Squad to like
Finally,
save DC, and it's also like the negative reception that Batman vs Superman got. Like, I don't know if we want to talk about like the reshoots that this supposedly underwent, but like
Right, yeah.
those were like a direct result of how bad Batman vs Superman did in terms of reception.
Yeah,
Right.
And,
And
everyone thought it was too serious. It took itself too seriously. It was just
Yeah.
too dark and whatnot. So they tried to make this. I've heard that they intentionally tried to cut it to be more like the trailer, because the trailer was well received.
Yeah, definitely.
But the actual final cut wasn't like the trailer. And I
Yeah.
think that explains some of the choices that I absolutely fucking hated with this movie.
Right, yeah.
And also after the success of Deadpool, they were
Right,
like,
yeah, why wouldn't
"Ooh,
you?"
we need to make it funny." They should have made it R.
Yeah, they
as
should have
well.
made it R.
Yeah.
There was another thing, like speaking of the last episode that we put out, Don't Think Twice, Mike Birbiglia was kind of like, he was in like the news cycle where he's like, Don't Think Twice literally doesn't have any nudity. It doesn't have like anything.
They smoke
They
pot
smoke
once.
pot in one
Yeah.
scene,
Yeah.
and it's an R rating. And then this, which is like mass murder
Yeah.
and just ridiculous shit, is PG-13.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, and he was kind of like, really? Like, it's kind of all about who you know in the movie industry.
Yeah, I'm sure there's
And
a lot of
obviously-
politics with the MPAA.
Oh, right. And
This definitely,
it's kinda
this felt like a movie that like I can tell that they were trying for a PG-13 rating. Like, there's certain
Yes,
lines where like the one, I thought it was just a like a dubbed over line from the trailer, but it's actually in the movie where like Will Smith is like, "Y'all jokers must be like
Yes,
crazy or something." It
Well,
sounds like he wants to say like, "Y'all fuckers must be crazy" or something.
Will Smith doesn't curse though.
Oh yeah, he's got
Also,
some jaded now.
Yeah.
He says shit a few times in this movie.
Does he?
He definitely says shit, yeah, because
Will
it
Smith
stood
is
out
slacking.
like, oh, I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah. It's not keeping it PG anymore.
But like it felt
Welcome
like
to
it
Earth.
definitely felt like it needed to be an R-rated movie, but they wanted it to be PG-13 to make as much money as possible. And it also felt like it should have been an R-rated movie, just based on the amount of violence. Like there's so much violence in this movie.
Yeah.
And you maybe don't see blood, but you see like
Heads exploding.
literally like probably
yeah.
like 100 to 200 people die.
Yeah,
And
it's
right,
like
yeah.
it's like the Michael Bay Transformers style of violence, where like literally robots are getting their heads blown apart and like
Well,
fragments are coming out,
yeah,
and it's just like,
and that's-
oh, but it's not a person, and there's
Yeah,
not
no,
blood.
That's what I was about to say. Do we see people die, or do we
see
see like
zombies
blobs die? Like,
Yeah,
it's
but
just
those
kind
are,
of
I
like,
mean, technically they are people, but at the
Yeah,
same time,
I feel like that plays into the PG-13 kind of like they make like, oh well, they're not killing people, they're like
Yeah, but
killing,
also like, what's the difference? You
well,
still have.
I mean, you're not. It's the visual imagery. It's like if you saw a bunch of people getting their fucking like skulls bashed
But all the-
in
but all
instead
the-
of like
all the
goopy
character-
bugs.
I
stuff,
mean,
yeah.
but in a year where we saw a gorilla get headshotted,
Dicks out for Harambe. Dicks out for Harambe. Again.
dicks out for Harambe, dicks out for Harambe. Huh. Another one. Dicks out for Harambe, dicks out for Harambe.
Everybody listening with headphones, I'm sorry.
You're welcome.
hopefully the normalized will capture that.
Gunshots in your ear.
You're welcome for the eargasms that you're having right now.
But like I feel like this movie like glorifies violence a lot, like
It does, but
because there's
I
no
felt
there's
so-
no good characters,
yeah.
there's no real consequences for the this is something we'll get into much deeper later, but everyone is a bad character in this movie.
You're right.
Like,
Yeah.
and they all kill people in senseless ways, and a lot of times some of the violence is like a punchline or at least just like a
Right.
cool note about the character, like oh, he's got however many confirmed kills, or he's this good with like a gun and whatnot.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no like moral compass for this movie, and everything is just like violence is really really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
guys, stupid. It's what we do.
in the way that it kind of glorifies violence, though, I like that it also puts military violence in
Yeah.
equality with crime violence, which I really
Yeah,
like.
no, I mean, that's what I like about this movie.
in that the
is
way that it glorifies them both.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, but it shows that they're no different.
You have villains who will spend the rest of their lives, even after saving the fucking Earth, in prison, and then you have military personnel who are just kind of like,
Yeah, but
kind of,
also,
yeah.
but also
And it's-
still
and
in
it's also-
prison.
They're
you know?
villains. Like they should kind of have like a really like fucked up kind of, this is supposed to be. I even read this is some really goofy trivia. I thought this was this movie is really not that bad, but it's like they had to have like an on-set therapist because of how dark and evil this movie is. And
I
it's
mean,
like,
after
is
Heath
it
Ledger
really?
killed himself, it was probably specifically for Jared Leto.
But like, was this movie really that bad? Like, if they made this movie like really dark, like I think this could have been like a really cool movie.
Yeah,
but this
same.
movie was like fluffy, like popcorn shit. Like,
Yeah.
Like there was my theater was mostly little kids, and they didn't, again, they're not seeing the imagery of like somebody's heads being bashed open. They're like, cool aliens are getting like,
Yeah.
like,
No, yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
kind of like
This
Also,
was-
I mean, we'll get into this also later, but it feels like there's a weird like tonal disconnect where like the movie looks dark. Like literally, it's a dark movie. Like there's barely
Yeah.
any like daylight
Right,
scenes.
right, yeah.
High contrast. Like a lot of just like the blacks are just like pumped in like the entire
Yeah.
movie in terms of like the levels and whatnot.
yeah.
they do also
then,
have
like,
like
it's-
that neon aesthetic though, which kind of is like
That hot, yeah.
goofy.
It's like
Yeah,
Hot Topic dark.
Hot Topic aesthetic.
It literally is Hot Topic aesthetic the entire time. Hot Topic is not going to go out of business. as
Come
long
get
as
your
Suicide
Harley
Squad.
Quinn merch,
Yeah.
girls and
Oh
guys.
god, Hot Topic is just like coming about this movie. Thank you. But like the tone in terms of like the dialogue of the movie does not fit the way the movie looks. I feel like,
Yeah.
especially with lines like that, where like you have like criminals, like people who have like the most like confirmed like kills or whatnot, like Deadshot, and it's like y'all jokers must be crazy. Like it's just too easy to tell what he wants to say in that line and what was like what was traded out to make it PG-13.
That's another thing. But just to get into that character, I feel like they really tried to like. I can feel like the uncomfortableness of Will Smith, or maybe just trying to be like I feel like him delivering a line. They'll be like, hey, Will, can you make that blacker? And they'll be like, okay. And then, like, literally, like,
there's a few lines like
50
that.
tries later, he had to have arrived at, like, y'all be tripping, boo, because what I thinking is not what you think. Like, it's just kind of like something gets, like, lost in, like, translation. I
had a lot of problems with his character in terms of the inconsistency of the way his lines were delivered. Like, some of it was like Will Smith now,
right?
And some of it was like Fresh Prince Will. Like,
yeah.
Just like trying to deliver it like someone like from the hood. Like,
Lesser of two evils, though. Should he have done this or Independence Day? Because he turned down Independence Day to do this.
I think he should have done both.
No, there was just scheduling conflicts.
He should have done both.
Listen, Will Smith is a super movie star.
I think he could have helped.
Guys, let's be honest. Will Smith is a clone. He could have done both. There are multiple Will Smiths. We all know it. Look at Jaden and Willow. Is that her name?
Yes.
His name?
They're
just little tiny Will Smiths growing up. It's
Will
just the
Smith
clones.
and Jada Pinkett Smith, so Willow and Jaden. We see you.
We see what you done. Oh boy.
But yeah, I actually really liked Will Smith as Deadshot, and
I thought he was like the heart and soul of this movie.
Yeah,
I think without him, this movie would have been the train wreck from hell.
He tried to carry it, but I also feel bad that he was in it.
I can't,
because we know Will Smith is better than this. Like, we've seen him deliver.
Do we?
Fucking like Ali, like even fucking like 90s movies like Enemy of the State, like
yeah, exactly. But what has he been
what
doing
has
recently?
he done recently that's been good?
I feel like Will Smith is.
This is like an Oscar performance compared to some of the recent shit he's done.
Oh
like,
yeah.
This is
but
like,
no, I think Will Smith, in all honesty, is like Hollywood's go-to when they're like, this movie might be bad. Let's put Will Smith in it because people
even
will
in a
come
bad
and see
movie,
him.
Will Smith is not like horrible though.
No,
like,
he's good in everything he's in, and that's what brings people
like
to the
you can
theater.
always portray like any emotion, but I just feel like you have to pair him with like the right movie, the right director, the right script. Like he can carry it in terms of performance, but he can't like make magic happen. With
I kind of was also like, I picture him signing on, and then they're like, all right, maybe we should just kind of make him like the main character to like to lead this.
Yeah.
Or like I feel like kind of Harley Quinn maybe should have like been the lead. I mean, she is a lot of parts,
it was definitely Deadshot and Harley Quinn.
Yeah. But it was just like Deadshot is who the fuck has ever heard of Deadshot? He's like a B. No, he's like a B villain. Just say it.
Okay, so Deadpool is based off Deadshot. Did you guys know that?
I don't know. I don't know much about
we're big fans of Deadpool. I don't know if you know.
Coming in to drop the comic knowledge. Boom, 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 boom. Anyway, so yeah, Deadshot first premiered like back in the 60s, and he was like this fucking magician with a top hat, and it was hilarious.
You can tell he's from the 60s based on what he wears.
Yeah. But the concept of Suicide Squad is like bringing together a bunch of like B villains, kind of.
I mean, like, Deadshot's always, he's basically the bullseye of the DC universe, and also was big enough that Marvel parodied him in the 90s to make Deadpool. You know, like he was a big deal back in the early Detective Comics, DC Comics era, and was in the original Suicide Squad along with Enchantress and the Rick Flag, whatever the fuck his name is, and a couple other people that don't really matter.
He may be big in comics, but he hasn't made his way really into popular culture.
No, but none of these people have, except maybe Harley Quinn, because people have a weird fetish for that. But
most people, if they would know anyone from this movie besides obviously the Joker, they would know Harley Quinn.
Yes,
because
but the Joker's barely in this movie.
Yeah. And Harley Quinn, like I was telling Kevin, like there's so many like weird condescending tweets about like, can't wait for all the fake Harley Quinn fans to come out after Suicide Squad or something.
Yeah, it's
like, guys, she's based off a cartoon. Like, it's really hard for you guys to like.
Can't wait for all the real Harley Quinn fans to come out and go back away because you suck. I'm sorry if there are any Harley Quinn fans out there. I love you. You're just really weird.
Did you know
sorry.
They wanted to cast? I'm just gonna sprinkle in some random trivia. Did you know they wanted to cast Tom Hardy as Rick Flag?
That's Harley Quinn.
Not as Boomerang, because the guy who plays Boomerang looks so much like Tom Hardy.
Oh, he's like a super fat Tom Hardy that is embracing the Australian act. But I think that would have been a better movie. But obviously, Tom Hardy had to go do The Revenant, so... It's out for Harambe.
Tricks out for Harambe.
Tom Hardy.
Who was the guy that played Rick Flag? He looked really familiar.
He was just in House of Cards, the most recent season. He played
Kevin.
Was he in any porn? Is that where I would know him from?
He does look like but he's the guy that they go to when Tom Hardy says no.
Oh, okay.
That's who he is. Now.
So he's in porn. He's Tim Hardy.
This is probably
I got a Tim Hardy for you right here.
this is the biggest thing he's done besides like House of Cards, I would say.
This is the biggest thing he's done since my dick.
Riley's guys.
No.
Enough. There's a line and we crossed it.
We crossed it like 5 drinks ago.
All right, hold on. Let's just like finish up like the reception of movies so we can get into like the actual.
Yeah.
What else is there to say?
I mean,
People don't like it.
well, real quick, this movie, similar to this whole summer, has sucked for movies. Yeah. Like, let's be honest, since Captain America: Civil War, like every big AAA movie has fucking tanked in Metascores, and people are still going out to see them, but like people like me that don't have a lot of money for movies or don't have access to movies are put off. Like, I wouldn't have gone and seen this movie if I wasn't doing this review.
Like X-Men too. I don't know.
Yeah, like X-Men Apocalypse tanked, but I was reviewing that, and also I'm a big fan of X-Men. But like I didn't go and see Ghostbusters 2 cuz that tanked.
There was a Ghostbusters 2. That was just Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters Girl Squad.
Ghostbusters 2. There was 2 Ghostbusters movies.
Wait.
It's not a
So
sequel. It's not a sequel.
You're trying to tell me that there's a Ghostbusters 2 out there?
Yes. There's a second Ghostbusters out there.
You're trying to tell me that there's hypothetically a Ghostbusters movie where they bring the Statue of Liberty to life with the heart and soul of New York?
And Rick Moranis is in it, and it's great.
Wait, Rick Moranis is in a movie?
Back in 1980.
You're trying to tell me that there was a sequel to Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray's coke-infused film about ghosts and goblins in New York?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
I'm very drunk.
Yeah. But what do you want to say about the reception, though, Mike?
You're trying to tell me
It was bad.
that
I wanted to read this quote in particular because I fucking love this. Mick LaSalle from the San Francisco Chronicle. This is a quote from his review where he gave it 0 out of 4 stars.
wow.
And he said, if you know someone you really can't stand, not someone you dislike, not someone who rubs you the wrong way, but someone you really loathe and detest, send that person a ticket for Suicide Squad.
Why?
Ooh.
Like, that's a...
And then, I mean, the negative reception has been like pretty well done.
Harambe's here. He's found us. Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
Watch out.
It's getting real hot in here.
Yeah, we turned the AC off and we're just getting drunker because of it.
But I mean, there was a whole shit where like Rotten Tomatoes had like a really low score. It's lower now, but it started out as like 39, which is like bad, but not the 26 that it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People started a whole petition to remove Rotten Tomatoes, like just,
to get rid of the aggregate
just
site.
tell Rotten Tomatoes like an independent like website did not exist because they were giving bad reviews to Suicide Squad.
Right.
Which 30% of Rotten Tomatoes is owned by Warner Brothers. So just saying. But the bad reviews were well documented, and David Ayer, the director of Suicide Squad, was tweeting in response. And he tweeted a quote from Emiliano Zapata, which is Prefiero morir de pie que vivir de rodillas, which means I'd rather die standing than live on my knees, which is like a quote that Zapata meant to be about like the struggle of like the working class of like Mexico and like whatnot and classism and all that. And he basically had to apologize for equating
to the reception of
the
Suicide
struggle
Squad,
of the working class of Mexico, which is like not good, to the reception of like Suicide Squad.
Oh wait, do I have to apologize for just saying sucking cock in relation to that?
Well, you're not a public figure.
No, because the working class sucks dick. I'm sorry, America.
That's the real working class.
That's the oldest job in America. I do it, Joe does it, Mike does it, we all do it. Just to each other, but I mean, we pay each other too. I don't know if that's
saying that it's the oldest job in America, but I think it's the oldest job in the world, Dad.
America is the world, Joe.
I forgot. But let's get into
That's
the
all
movie.
I wanted to say about the reception. Now let's talk about this wonderful, wonderful movie.
Let's give them something to talk about. All right.
Shit, we don't have the rights for that.
Rewind, Mike.
Let me just press
Is that how it works?
the rewind button.
But like I was telling Kevin before, this movie starts out like just nonstop classic rock block on like a dad rock
my
radio
God,
station.
The soundtrack is probably one of my biggest complaints with the entire movie.
I've never seen a movie with so many songs in it. Like, how many rights did they have to
I'm
acquire?
curious
It's
if
like,
that was part of the recut and the reshoots, like if that was their way, because none of the songs fucking fit.
Yeah.
Like
I think some of the
they weren't
songs
creating
fit.
like it was fucking
But
like
it
it was
they
like
were like micro moments.
yeah,
there
they
were
was like
micro montages.
it was like supervillain like Forrest Gump. Like
Yeah.
just fuck like they literally had
Yeah.
like Creedence Clearwater Revival,
Yeah.
but then next to like Eminem at one point.
Yeah. They fit, but they're so. I wonder if they were going by like the YouTube rule, where like if you play for less than 15 seconds, you don't have to pay for it.
They had like micro montages, and
like-
it didn't make sense. And
but they
there's
never-
one after another after
They
another.
never
after
added
another.
anything to the movie. I don't think it created any like moments. Like there's no moment where you're like, oh, that part where they played. It was just like a playlist that was on repeat. Not repeat, but a playlist that was on shuffle of just like random shit. And it's like, oh, play this in the background for like.
Yeah.
It's not like
But
the
for
lyrics
the-
of the song
yeah.
had anything to
Yeah.
do with like. You know, it's not like they did like, you know, Back in Black or something.
The-
People walked
the
out in
one-
suits or something.
The
like,
one song that I really liked was the scene where they bring Deadshot out to the firing range and they start fucking blasting Kanye. I
hated that.
I love that part.
again, like all these songs that they, besides like the Eminem song, which I've never really heard in a movie before, but like all the songs have been done in iconic scenes in movie before.
And like the one that
nobody
they
should
stole.
do that fucking Creedence Clearwater Revival song after Forrest Gump. Like
Yeah.
that's like an iconic scene in Forrest Gump,
Right.
and you can't like top that at all.
Yeah.
And all the like even like the what's the Rolling Stones song that they did?
Right.
House of the something or. I don't know what song I'm thinking.
You're the music guy, Mike.
So, House of the Rising something they did a song. I don't know if that's actually Rolling Stones, but like all the songs,
rolling.
yeah, all the
Let
songs
these
that they
stones
did
keep
in it have
rolling.
been like in iconic scenes in other movies, and it just felt like it was just like, oh, just throw that song in at like the last minute.
It's a real Zack Snyder move.
No, my favorite part
Well, no.
was when the helicopters are flying in and they play that fucking song that's iconic from Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's like, really, you guys want to compare yourselves to that movie? Fucking lightning in the bottle that did what you're trying to do a million times better. Great.
What was it, Beastie Boys? Or?
No, it was that old, I don't know, like Jefferson Starship song, some fucking
Yeah.
band from the 70s.
Again, all of these songs, none of them created like a new moment where you're like, oh, this is like that scene in Suicide Squad where they had that song playing.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas like if Forrest Gump, you can be like, oh, that Creedence Clearwater Revival scene, or like this,
Yeah.
the scene where they played that song.
I would say
And
the
I was gonna
Kanye
say,
song.
Talking about Watchmen, I felt like this made the Watchmen soundtrack feel like fucking like genius. What this was,
I would say it made it look like genius because I still think that is like the Achilles heel of that
Watchmen,
film.
It is because Watchmen felt like it needed to be a more cinematic film.
Yeah.
But at least with Watchmen, it was creating the times. Like it was all like songs that made sense for the time. That,
Didn't
like,
Watchmen have like fucking Muse in it though?
No, that's in the trailer. It's
Oh,
one of the
and-
greatest
and
trailers
that's-
of all time.
Is that Muse
But
or
they-
9 Inch Nails?
No, that is Muse in,
Okay.
in the trailer. But I
Muse and
mean, like,
Smashing Pumpkins
but
in the trailer.
they use like a. I mean, in Watchmen, they use like they have like this great electronic score that it trades off with like those songs or whatever. I don't know. That was just. But this was like it's like the ADD cut that is trying to like they're trying to like please teens or something. It's kind of like this, that,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
or at least Watchmen could kind of play like a good 30
play
seconds
a
of a
full
song,
montage
right?
of a
Yeah,
song.
Yeah.
This was just mini montage after mini montage, and,
Well, and then they would do like a bunch of those in a row, and then they would go to like actual soundtrack. But literally,
Yeah.
like the volume on the actual soundtrack would be like
I don't
much
even-
lower.
I didn't even know there was an actual.
It was
soundtrack.
there, and it
Yeah.
wasn't great. I mean, I don't blame them.
Yeah,
for
it
putting
was
the volume
just like
low,
ambient
but then,
music.
Yeah,
and then you could fucking tell when like the song that was like a new song that they're trying to pump like through like the label. Like I don't know who it was, but the scene where Harley Quinn is falling into like the toxic sludge.
Oh,
with
yeah,
Joker,
yeah,
you can
yeah.
tell it's a new song because they fucking blast it in that scene.
That sounded like fucking Adele or some shit.
I think it was Demi Lovato or some shit.
Right,
Same
yeah, that sounds,
shit.
yeah.
But like it was so much louder than all the other songs, and you're like, oh, okay. You can tell that's like in the contract, like bump the volume of this song when it comes
Yeah,
on,
right.
in, like the movie.
And they
Like,
did. They made like a whole soundtrack where 21 Pilots is playing over Imagine Dragons or something, and it's like, and like it works. I didn't even put like any of those songs. I did hear like the one like
One of them was in the
Action
credits.
Bronson one where like Deadshot is in the like an alleyway or something. Or,
Yeah.
when he's first like this shows him doing some sort of job where he's like, y'all better pay me before I do this job.
Yeah. I love that scene. I honestly
I
loved
liked that
Deadshot in this movie. I
the
love
thing
Will
is,
Smith.
this movie was kind of fun for me. I kind of had a fun time in this movie.
Yeah.
I think my biggest complaint is I'm so sick of the superhero formula, and I'm so sick of the third act. Like, there's a monster taking over the world.
There's a giant beam going into the sky, and it's gonna kill us all. Let's just close the portal.
That now I can't. But it's every movie now.
But honestly, at this point, is it kind of like a meta trope where it's like,
I don't care about tropes
I don't think Suicide
anything.
Squad is smart enough to do that. But like me as a critic, like I can kind of look at that and be like, this whole movie is kind of meta in the sense that it's villains taking the role of superheroes. So why don't they fight this like meta trope at the end? And it can kind of be forgivable if the movie was smarter and acted that way throughout the entire movie, which this film doesn't.
Right.
This film could be done way better where that could have worked.
It's a movie about bad guys where bad guys don't do bad guy things. It's just kind of like, and
They don't do a lot of good guy things either.
I mean,
they save the world.
At the end, but they do it because they're bored. Like, there's no like real like and they don't really create they don't do a good job of being like, oh, this person could like destroy the world.
I mean, that's kind of
because they try to keep it hidden, the fact that like, oh, this was like the enchantress like person or whatever. Like they show it to the audience.
Yeah.
But you don't have a lot of shots of like the
Yeah.
world feeling like they're at stake or whatnot.
Yeah.
Like everything is in like the situation room of like, boats being blown up.
That's
and
kind of so Suicide Squad in contrast to one of my favorite comic runs. So I'm a big Marvel guy. I really wanted to get my brother on here because he's a bigger DC guy than me. But I've read a couple things. But the Marvel version of Suicide Squad is the Thunderbolts, who don't have explosive devices in their neck. They just fight as a superhero team for different reasons that I'm not going to get into because we don't have a Thunderbolts movie yet, but hopefully we do. But the Suicide Squad is fighting because if they don't, they'll die. And that's
Do they
something...
have a choice in this matter? I mean, like,
What do you mean?
Like when they go to like the prison and
No, they didn't ask them. They wheeled them the fuck out and shot explosive devices in their neck.
that's
And
true.
that's
I mean,
why...
but they go to talk to everybody first, don't they? Like,
Yeah, but then they go to talk to everybody and they're like, oh, we'll negotiate things later. But then the Midway City attack happens and they go and just take everybody, put explosive devices in their neck. And they're like, oh, maybe this is real, maybe this isn't. And then Slipknot tries to take off and gets blown up.
Is that what his name is?
Yeah,
Slipknot,
Slipknot.
Oh god.
And that's actually straight from the comics.
There's so many like they wheel out all the main characters kind of in wheelchairs, and then as soon as like they kind of like arrive at like a midway point, and they're like, oh, this is Slipknot. He can climb up a building, kind of, or something.
He's definitely going to die.
Yeah, I know. Like he's such a last minute addition. I'm like, he's going to die almost immediately.
Well, because they
like,
literally have like the character introductions for everyone, where they literally have like graphics that are like, this is their name, this is who they actually are.
Yeah.
Here's all their skills.
But they only did that
I got a lot
for-
of fucking problems with those graphics to begin with, because it's like they show them so fast because of how like quickly the movie's trying to move it.
they're
first,
trying to do like a Deadpool
where
thing.
the audience literally can't even read all the shit that is on those graphics.
Yeah.
So then it's like, what's the fucking point? Like if because it's obviously not something that people are actually like reading.
Yeah.
The way
It's
that it's
just
displayed.
kinda
It's like a fucking like Hot Topic font. Like it's the movie font and
Yeah.
whatnot. Although not
for
all.
like-
I think it's definitely adapting from that sort of like Deadpool, Scott Pilgrim. It's like a lot of things happening. It's for that
And,
sort of like ADD generation where it's kind of like you appreciate that, like, sometimes things are put into films that you don't see the first time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not defending this, saying like this is like a great thing to put in your film, but like I could forgive that.
Well,
I
kind
think
of,
It's
that
just
was
like for me, it's like just do them all in the same fucking font at
Yeah.
least. Like if it's gonna be something that's just for the audience, like they're all in a different font. You
Oh, okay,
can't read.
right.
They
Yeah.
all even the
They all
ones that
have
don't have a
different
lot of
graphics,
like
too. Yeah.
the ones that don't have a lot of text in them, they move really fast to the point where you can't read everything that's in there. You get the point. Like they're just listing guns or
right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
skills or whatever. But like they could have like stayed there like a half a second longer just to
Yeah.
let us like actually
Yeah.
read what's going on.
I mean,
especially if it's something that's just for the audience, because they go so fast that it's like it's not actually for the audience in the end, because we can't fucking read everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not. It's not in a font that would be, it'd be one thing if it was like, like parchment with like, like a typewriter font, like,
Yeah.
this is what, the chief of staff is reading as he's
Yeah.
getting the briefing. It's like fucking like Hot Topic font.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do it in that font, then let us be able to read everything that's in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, it's
Well,
not actually for the audience. But
in that case, it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't get too bent up on those sorts of things, because it's like kind of an artistic choice where
I think it's a bad artistic choice.
It's definitely
though.
bad.
It's
I
a part of
definitely
the
agree with that.
hot topic aesthetic.
But like,
Again, it
yeah.
works like Joe's saying, like towards like an ADD thing, where it's not a consistent font. It's
Yeah.
not like they do a different thing for every character, so your mind is just drawn
Yeah.
into different places, and then they don't do it for every fucking character.
Yeah.
Katana
Yeah.
comes out, who ends up being one of the cooler characters in the movie,
And they say nothing about her.
arguably one of the more like powerful characters in the movie. Like, she never has any trouble cutting through fucking anyone in this movie.
Yeah.
With her fucking like soul sword or whatever she has.
Yeah, and she's
And they
a
don't do
total
a
badass.
character introduction for her. And then
Right.
I guess it's Slipknot or whatever his guy.
Yeah, don't
name
do
is.
one for.
I mean, he's gonna
they-
die, but then the fact that they don't do one for him is almost like a indicator to the fact that he's going to die.
Yeah,
So when he
yeah.
dies, you're just kind of like, okay, like,
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was. I didn't care about him in the first place. If they had like done a whole introduction for him when he died, that would have been a more like momentous scene.
Yeah, I mean, they only did intros for, I think, Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Boomerang.
Yeah,
Right. And they did
remake.
one even
And-
for Captain Flag too, because that's what I thought, that maybe they didn't do one for Katana because she's good and she's not like
Right,
someone that they're briefing them on.
Yeah.
But they did one for Captain Flag.
But
Like,
they-
they did like a whole like
Yeah.
font thing for Captain Flag.
But they didn't do one for Killer Croc, did they?
I think they did.
They did.
But it was like a really like short one where it was just
They were all super short. You couldn't read
but
any
like
of the shit that was on
Deadshot
there.
had the backstory. Like that's the thing, they showed like
They
the
didn't do
description.
backstory for the other
Exactly.
ones. They did
Yeah,
backstory for Deadshot and Harley Quinn,
And-
sort of Captain Flag in relation to Enchantress.
Yeah, and then the other ones they were just like, and the rest of them.
Yeah.
yeah.
There was so much. There's so much exposition in this movie that just amounts
There's also
to
not
nothing.
there's also not enough at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
they spend so much time on exposition too that it's kind of like, I don't know.
Well, the thing that I give-
I couldn't tell you
I mean,
if there
it's-
was too much.
It's
or
it's a
not
catch
enough.
22. Like, I mean, this is always going to be the problem when you try to create a movie with like
This many
6 to
characters,
8
yeah.
fucking like characters.
So-
like, you need to really create one main character. Like, they really needed to separate Will Smith and Harley Quinn.
yeah.
Or even just one of them. One of them
They-
would
they
probably have been
should've-
better.
they
Like,
should've
Will
done
Smith
one. Yeah.
should have been the driving force of this. You know, like, he should have been the one that like rallied everyone and was like, you know what, we need to just do this so that we can get our sentences shorter
Right.
and whatnot
Yeah,
or some shit.
yeah, like Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy to draw comparisons to.
Yeah.
So, like, DC is trying to do this thing right now where I give them so much credit for it because they don't want to copy the Marvel Cinematic Universe beat for beat, which is great. They're trying to do their own thing, but they're like, hey, instead of doing all these intro movies where we like establish characters, let's just do giant ensemble pieces. It worked for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
But Guardians of the Galaxy was like fucking lightning in a bottle. And also, Guardians of the Galaxy is that. It's a joke of the Green Lantern Corps. So it kind of already had that to play off of. And it was never these individual stories where all of these people in the DCU that they're bringing up have individual stories.
It's
and you could say that like nerds and geeks and fans know all of these backstories, but in a cinematic universe, the characters are completely different.
But these are, again, like I said before, these are all so, like, I listened to an interview like with the husband and I think it was a husband and wife who originally wrote the first like Suicide Squad comic.
Yeah.
And they said like these are all characters that nobody gives a shit about. These are all B characters that you know, Batman can just fight on like a random issue whenever. You know, nobody knows about these characters, and like making Suicide Squad is trying to like, you know, for a comic book you can kind of like fit in that exposition of like, but for a movie it's like,
Yeah.
how do you make these many
It
characters?
was a joke issue back in the day. It was back when Detective Comics were still Detective Comics. Like I think the original Task Force X Suicide Squad showed up in like Detective Comics 357 or something like that, where like they were like, oh shit, we don't have a story for Batman or Superman this week. Okay, let's take all these villains and make a story. Just throw something together.
Well, like a comic book, you can do like, issue 1 is Deadshot's story, and issue 2 is Harley Quinn's story. Whereas this, it tries to like squeeze it all into one. Where like, you probably could have created a pretty cool franchise if you were like,
And it comes
Suicide
back to
Squad 1 was about Deadshot, and he's the driving thrust. But they try to throw
it comes back to the
movie.
Fucking DC.
Trying to catch up,
wants to catch up, and they want to make these huge ensemble because, like, wow, look how much the Avengers made. Like, look at all those, like, very big actors, like, all in one place. Like, wow, cool. Like, we want to do that. And it's like, well, yeah, like, again, Marvel has worked toward that for years, making these individual movies. And it's kind of like, well, what if we just put Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman, like, all in, like, the same movie?
It's
and
like people
not
already
even
know about these people, you know?
Yeah, and with this, it's just, it becomes more of a clusterfuck. It's just, like, it's too many people. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again,
when you don't know who to care about in this movie. Like, I really didn't care about anyone by the end of the movie because it would have been like it's like a cool formula, like especially how it's presented in the trailer. They have the one line where it's like, I want to assemble some bad people to do some really good things,
right? Mm-hmm.
But they don't really assemble them to do that. Like, they're not even assembled essentially to fight. Spoiler alert! Sort of the big threat at the end. They're assembled to extract. I forget what they call them. Something MVT or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which ends up being just the director Viola Davis's character.
Yeah.
They make it out like it's some like, humanitarian, someone who can like cure cancer or something.
I was hoping it was going to be Bruce Wayne. And then it was just her. I was like, fuck.
But it ends up just being Viola Davis, who's not even a good character. There's a scene where she fucking like murders like 10 people just because they're in the room and they don't have the clearance or whatnot.
You're right. And I think that's
And then they end up like, there's no good characters in this movie. And like, that's all right. But you need to like make the bad people a little bit better, or like make us like relate to them in some way. Like there was no real like driving force where I was like, I relate to this character. Like even Deadshot, they tried to give him like, oh, like he has a daughter and like he's sort of trying to be better, but they didn't give us enough of that. And it was like just a weird thing where like Deadshot in costume and Deadshot out of costume was like almost like a different character. Will Smith's character was like all over the place in this movie. I felt like.
Yeah.
The prison was so weird too. Like, Will Smith had a punching bag. and Harley Quinn had like the cage room. And like it was just
like they didn't do a good job.
And then some of them had like just normal prison rooms, and I was just kind of like,
and why did
Will Smith
didn't
get
do
a
a good job
bag?
of like, I mean, they ended up, I know they cover the tracks by having the shit that they shoot into their neck that can explode them, but like they do the whole backstory for Will Smith where it's basically like, we know who his daughter is. We have that as leverage over him. And then with Harley Quinn, it's like, she's dating the Joker. I don't even know why she's really on the team because she doesn't have any superpowers.
Well,
she's just dating the Joker, and they don't have the Joker under their control.
She's a meta-human. Everyone in the Suicide Squad are meta-humans, which basically means like they can get punched in the face by Superman and maybe survive. Which is like,
they don't do a good job of setting that up in this.
No, they don't. And also the term
really
meta-human,
all her jumping into the vat explains is like why her makeup's bad all the time.
Yeah. Right, but yeah, I mean,
I think there is supposed to be something about,
there is some sort of
they have a weird
scene
where, they don't really explain it as much. Is there supposed to be something with Harley Quinn where like people touch her and they're attracted to her? Because Batman touches her in the weird scene, and then he makes out with her.
That was weird.
I was
talking about that earlier.
Yeah, he was trying to
give
her
a fucking bizarre scene.
He looked at her and was like, "Oh shit, she drowned. I have to give her mouth to mouth."
Oh, they didn't explain that.
Yeah,
well. It looked like he
It's like I was trying to like work through everything in my mind, and I was just like, that had to have been shot very awkwardly, and that had to have just been like a cut very awkwardly. For like everybody that I've talked to about that scene is like, why did Batman like date rape Harley Quinn? She's like knocked out. And
that's
like,
really funny that's what people.
I thought it was
from
something
that.
like Poison Ivy, where like he touched her and like instant attraction. Was like, I need to make out with this.
I mean, Harley Quinn. Like,
I'd love to see what that
comics,
says in like the script or something. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It was weird.
I mean, I really enjoyed. I didn't see Batman versus Superman, but all I've heard from that is that Batman just straight up murders people, which is not who Batman is. And I really loved the Batman scene.
Yeah, this was
in
Batman.
This movie.
This was Batman.
Because
because it's earlier Batman. This is Batman. Well, I guess this technically takes place after the fact, but the scene where he rescues Harley is before.
Maybe
because Harley's not in prison yet.
Yeah.
So that's earlier Batman before he's like really
I think-
jaded to everything.
Yeah.
It's when he wants to save everyone. He
that's-
goes to save Joker, like his fucking like
Yeah.
arch like rival.
Yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
which
like,
is the Batman that we all know and love.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But
I
that's,
really love
but
those scenes.
I feel like they've only been in prison for like X amount of months, like Harley and Deadshot or something. So if that's if that's when they're being arrested, then
Yeah.
that was like
No, they all have
Batman
they all
a
have
year
a
ago.
rapport.
I mean,
with
it's
everyone.
never established or anything like that.
That's just a Crown Royal again.
Kevin's drinking a lot of it tonight. He's gonna get wild boy.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good night tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Get suicidal.
Why don't we just talk about like Harley Quinn in general? Like, what was your guys' opinion of Margot Robbie's performance?
See, I liked her, but there are I liked her. She has she can get some really good like one-liners, I think, and I think they can land with me.
With reshoots.
I think all the trailer lines were fucking delivered amazingly by her.
Right? Yeah.
But you could tell what the trailer lines
I mean,
were.
Margot Robbie's a good actress. Like,
Is she?
for what she's working with, where she's
I
supposed to be a
for what
sex
you do
symbol.
with this movie, it's
I
good.
think
Yeah.
Harley Quinn is a fucking hard, difficult character to capture.
It's a
on film
it's a
because
cartoon character.
She's
Like what
so
do you do?
cartoony, and that's
Yeah.
my biggest complaint with this. And it's a small complaint. I think she is one of the more driving forces in the movie. She carries it along with Will Smith as well.
Yeah.
But I think her character is almost like an impersonation of the Harley Quinn comics, which is like it's true to the comics. Like it feels like Harley Quinn, but it also just feels too much like Harley Quinn.
I don't
It's
even really
not-
know
it's not
what
a bad
Harley
thing.
Quinn exactly even is.
Harley
I
Quinn
feel
Well, like
is
especially when
just-
she
get
says
that
the
away
lines
from-
like Mr. J and
Yeah.
pudding and stuff like that. Like it seems like she's literally doing an impersonation.
Okay.
But that's
But then she has other lines that are normal that feel more like the Harley Quinn from the movies that I wanted to see, where like there's a little bit more vulnerability. Because I
Yeah.
feel like that's whenever you make a movie out of a comic book, that's what you should be trying to do is change the
humanize
form-
it, right?
Yeah.
Humanize it, change the format a little bit because that's the format of movies. Is someone has a want or a need, either fulfill it or you don't, and the climax is supposed to be some cool scene where you kind of flip stuff around, and that's kind of what you almost get in this, where like we think she's dead and she's alive, and you have that one scene where she's like. She's kind of upset that like Joker would like push her out of the helicopter or whatnot. And
Yeah.
she thinks that Joker's dead, and you see a little bit of vulnerability. And then she kind of like does like a pose when everyone walks around. I really liked that scene of Harley. I felt like that was most indicative of the Harley that I wanted to see in this movie. But then you just have other
her in the costume posing with Joker, or
no.
her-
After Joker has quote unquote died in the movie, the helicopter has crashed that
Yeah.
he was in. She's landed somewhere because she jumped out of the
yeah,
helicopter.
he
at the
pushed
last
her
minute.
out of the helicopter.
And then she's posing for
She
squad
reunites
as they
with
roll.
the
The Suicide Squad, who thought she was dead. They walk up and she
I went out to pee during this part.
Okay, yeah. So they
Suicide
come out.
Squad
They're going
finds her
together.
again, and
Yeah.
she just does like she was in a very vulnerable moment. She's thinking about Joker. She's
Okay.
almost about to cry.
Yeah.
and then she just does like a pose to kind of like perform for them.
Yeah.
like, oh, I wasn't crying.
Yeah.
Like, she's like oh hey guys, nice to see you again.
Oh,
or
that
something
sounds
like
really
that.
cool.
It's
Actually.
it is a really
Yeah.
nice
Yeah.
scene. And that's the
Yeah.
Harley
But
that I wanted to see more
everybody,
of.
Yeah, and everybody kind of walks past her, but then like she kind of starts to lose it. Like the more people walk by, and then the croc guy is like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
And then I don't know if it's that scene or it's another scene close by that where like Will Smith's Deadshot literally like holds her and carries her and like helps her down from somewhere. And it was like a kind of an intimate moment, and I liked it because and this is maybe a segue to talk about Jared Leto's Joker. But the relationship between her and Joker is like obviously like very like abusive
Yeah,
and whatnot.
yeah, that's how it
And
is
for
in
her
the
to be
comics,
like
yeah.
a main character in the movie, like I was looking for some kind of way for her to like kind of realize like, oh, the Joker's a fucking asshole. Like
Yeah.
Deadshot like kills people. He's a bad guy, so I can relate to that. But he has a good heart.
Yeah.
as they've tried to show us.
I think we
And they
got
have that, like,
at
connection.
the end. Yeah.
I don't know if we did because she goes back to Joker.
I mean,
at the end.
me and Joe were talking about that, but also the thing.
There
just
was
to jump,
they didn't spend enough time on the Joker for there
Well,
even to be a massive change.
just to
yeah, I don't know.
jump on the Harley Quinn train. Like, I really liked the duality in her character in this movie. So we had those scenes where, when she's separate from the Joker, she's her own character. But then whenever the Joker pops up, suddenly, like an abusive relationship, she's all about him. Whenever he's there, and then the farther he gets away, the more she becomes her own person, and there's that push
Yeah,
and
that is,
pull.
yeah.
And I think we'll get that more in the next Batman movie, because that's supposed to be Batman, Joker, Harley Quinn, possibly prequel to this movie, maybe sequel since Harley Quinn and the Joker have broken out. We'll see.
And there's also that, we were talking about, she does make a pretty significant transformation during this film, and it's in the explosive third act, where, the Temptress, or what is her name?
Enchantress.
The succubus.
She pulls all their weapons away from them, and they think they're kind of fucked. And Harley Quinn does the kind of like little act, like, if I join you, like, do you think you could bring back like somebody that I lost or whatever?
Yeah.
And she's able to, and we're kind of like, oh my god, she's like going right back into the Joker's kind of, she'd do anything to get him back, but instead she cuts her heart out and kind of saves the day, and it is kind of like she's looking past that. Like, she maybe could have got the Joker back if she helped this woman, take over the world with all of their meta powers, metahuman powers. But so I think there was some, I don't know, there was something there. Harley Quinn seems to, at the end, it's just her and her espresso machine reading a book. She seems to have maybe a little more moved past Joker, but of course when the Joker fucking breaks down the wall with a SWAT team, she's right, and she's putty in her hand.
But in all honesty, could she say no when he shows up? Like, what if she was just like...
Did they have,
my point is,
did they have to have him show up at that point? Like, hey, I don't even know if the Joker needed to be in this movie to begin with. I think he complicates a lot of stuff to be in this movie. There's already too many characters. They don't give... The Joker is... not only like Batman's like main villain or DC's main villain, but like in all of comics, like one of the most iconic villains of all time. And we've already had two, if not like more, like iconic performances as the Joker.
So we have if you're Mark Hamill, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger.
Like if you're not going to give him like the full due, then just hold off and like have like a little. I would have loved if it was just like Harley Quinn got into some weird scenario. She was, like they all are, captured at the end, and then at the end there's a little like snippet, like the after credits scene is Joker breaking in.
That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome.
Hey, the next Batman is going to have Joker, and you'll get the real Joker.
That would be fucking.
But this movie was like, it showed Joker,
like,
and it was true to the comics Joker, but it wasn't like the movie Joker that we wanted. There's no like iconic like Joker scene where he does some like mass thing. It's all really just he's a side character and a device for Harley Quinn's plot the entire time.
Yeah.
This Harley Quinn isn't even really developed enough in this movie for it to be like, oh, like she needed that.
Yeah.
Like,
Jared Leto's performance in this movie was... A lot of people have issues with it. I didn't mind it. I actually really...
I kind of would have preferred just an entire movie of that instead of watching this movie.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad.
Right.
But I think my problem is, and it's sort of outside of the movie. Yeah, like all of his antics leading up to the movie and like during this movie, like he's barely, even just in terms of screen time, he's not in this movie enough. And then the stuff he's stuff he's asked to do in this movie, it's just like shooting a gun, like saying stuff in a weird way, and then like minor dialogue with one character. Like it's not like he had to like kill a kid or something, or like do something where he really needed to method act for this movie.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I don't know if we really need to get into it, but I'm sure you guys have heard everything about like all the shit with Jared Leto.
I mean,
setting big corpses and like used condoms to all of his like cast characters.
What?
And, like,
I'm sorry, no, I haven't heard about this.
No, that's a thing. Yeah,
there's like he's been like this huge like media. He's created this whole huge media circus around like what are the other cast members saying about like working with Jared Leto, and he completely disappeared into like method acting as the Joker, and like
why
after this movie, I don't know.
And that's part of my problem is that like
we thought
he
it was
is
gonna
good.
Be bigger, yeah,
he's fine, but it's not like it's not even as good as Heath Ledger's. It's not an Oscar-winning performance.
There might be something on the cutting room floor that is Jared Leto shooting Barbara Gordon in the spine and then fucking the bullet hole.
And maybe he knew that maybe like they told him like, oh, we're going to do Suicide Squad, and then there's going to be a Batman standalone where you're going to fight Batman.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe he's just trying to establish it. But even then it's like,
maybe they're shooting those at the same time.
I would have rather have seen that more fully in Batman first than in this first. Like it doesn't add enough to this movie besides being like Deus Ex Machina for like some of the plot points.
Yeah.
To really justify like the shit that he did outside of the movie for this.
That would have been great in this movie, is that if all the Suicide Squad characters were villains in standalone movies. Like if we had a Wonder Woman villain and a Superman villain and a Flash villain and a Batman villain, then all coming together. Like
they needed to be a little bit more established before this movie in order to make this movie work.
Yeah.
Right.
Like me personally,
because they tried to fit all the backstory in for these villains.
Yeah, and it was just a fucking mess.
And they only were able to fit in like 2 of them, and they weren't even really that convincing. Like Deadshot and Harley Quinn.
And the Joker's performance in this movie, just getting back to it, like this movie felt like a trailer for the next Batman movie. Like, hey, here's the Joker you're going to see.
It's not bad. Like, it's not like there's nothing about it that I was like, oh, I can't believe Jared Leto did it.
Right.
But it just doesn't seem like it would be that hard to do it without method acting.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's
Seriously.
mostly makeup and saying stuff in weird voices and like throwing like a weird cadence on stuff. And again, like you said, he doesn't have to do anything that's like, oh, how could anyone get into the mindset to like do that for a movie? Like,
Dude, the fucking, again, the press surrounding this, there was literally something like this for every single character, but just listen to how ridiculous this is. Like, yeah, like Jared Leto, somebody was telling me this last night, like, oh, he spent like a year in a cabin by himself or something, like to
play the Joker?
Yeah, to play the Joker in this or whatever. And then it says,
I wish all those tattoos were real.
Can't even pronounce like this guy's name.
Tattoos. Like he literally has
tattoo. The guy who did who played Killer Croc, it says whatever his name is, it's many letters, did extensive research for Killer Croc, reading decades worth of material from the comics with the character. He actually also observed crocodiles and researched cannibalism. Like, what?
How do you research cannibalism?
For what was essentially, he was a punchline character where it was just like, oh, here's this tough character who wants BET. And
he
says like Bay and like homie and shit.
He sat in 14 hours of makeup and watched BET method acting.
Oh man, let's talk about the characters though. Like,
okay, we got Harley Quinn, we got the Joker,
we already talked
we
about
got Deadshot, we got Killer Croc, we got Mr. Magoo, we got Willy Wonka, we got Donatello,
well, who's
Michelangelo, not the Ninja Turtles, the Renaissance artists. We got Jesus Christ, we got God in the building, and we got my main man coming in at number 000, headshotted in the face, Harambe!
Who's the fire homie?
Diablo.
Hey man,
I don't want to kill nobody, man.
Oh my god, I was talking to Joe about this. My only gripe with this movie is the overt racism in this
Killer
fucking
Croc
movie.
was like maybe like like toppled me over when he was like, hey, I just want BET, or like he's like that just made me like,
Killer Croc just wants BET and to wear silk clothing. Is he fucking Rick Ross? And then we have fucking El Diablo, who's like the most stereotypical gangbanger ever. And then we have the fucking naive Native American that gets his head blown up when lied to a white person. Are you fucking kidding me?
But like
Come to our nice dinner we have.
Dicks out for Harambe!
Turkey and cranberry sauce and corn.
But the
we're not going to take your land.
Diablo, or whatever his character's name is, he's just like, I was talking to Kevin, all the effects they do with the fire look pretty bad. Like they show that like prison yard scene like 2 or 3 times, and it just kind of looks like some like plug-in effect that I did on like Digital Blue or something. It's like, and then everybody fell in the prison yard because
he's the only one that like sort of has like a reasonable backstory. As much as I hated his backstory, it was like you understood that he was a villain that wanted to be better. And like, you know, didn't want to be a villain anymore. Whereas like Deadshot, you didn't really believe it, even though you gave him the whole like daughter thing. You didn't believe it all. Croc, you gave him no backstory whatsoever. He just wants to live underground, so you don't care what the fuck he has to do.
Yeah,
and then Harley Quinn, it's like she just wants to be back with the Joker. Like there's nothing. And again, there was weird moments where like they tried to make Harley Quinn like human and like nice, and it didn't fit with like Harley Quinn from the comics, who's like a pretty like shitty person. And then
the cartoons,
she wasn't. Is she not in actual comics?
After the cartoon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
I didn't know that.
Still, that's like a terrible. But what's it called? The one scene I do like, is when he's talking about like his background. He's telling, for once, like they actually have this kind of like dialogue that makes sense when they're all talking like in the bar or whatever.
Oh,
And
I
it's
hated the bar
he's
scene.
just well the few lines of dialogue that come one after another, and he tells a story, and then somebody's like the boomerang guy who's stupid. He's kind of like, well, what happened to the kids or whatever? And she's like, they're dead. She's like, own that shit, kind of like, and it's kind of like, like.
That felt like that was like a snippet of like maybe what David Ayer wanted the movie to be, like darker. I don't know if we mentioned this before, but like the movie, it's been reported, has been like cut to be more like the trailer was.
Yeah,
where the trailer, and I think I think part of the soundtrack has to do with that like recutting, obviously, because the trailer had like, what is it, Ramones or a cover over the Ramones or something that's going on.
Bohemian Rhapsody, right?
In the
Wasn't
trailer,
that? I think that was the trailer.
maybe one of the trailers. I think the first trailer is like Ramones or something.
Yeah, I
But
think
it's like
the
classic
original
rock with like all the punchlines like back to back.
Yeah,
But the movie is so obviously shot to be like darker and look visually like.
yeah. Did you guys notice the reshoots?
I feel like I could tell which punchlines.
All
were
of the
reshoot.
jokes were close-up shots with minimal background.
Yeah.
And I was trying to. They were so quick cut that you couldn't tell like the difference in like hair length or like position. But I was keeping an eye out for that stuff.
Well, there was a lot of punchlines that felt like they were out of place in terms of like editing, where like the pacing just felt off. Like, use this cut. It wasn't the best in terms of flow, but it was the best performance for the individual punchlines. So that went in. There was a bunch like that. But yeah, the movie has like a much darker tone, and it feels like it wants to go much darker. And I did like that one specific line in the bar scene.
Yeah,
where Harvey says like, own that shit.
Yeah.
Like, but then they end up kind of just like going against that and being like, oh, like they're bad guys who like want to be good for no fucking reason. Like, and again, they give the Diablo guy, he's well documented in terms of why he wants to be better. Like, he hasn't wanted to be bad from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And then Deadshot, it's sort of like he has a daughter who wants him to be somewhat better. Maybe he wants to not kill people anymore.
The worst one is after that bar scene. During the bar scene, Boomerang says, or what's it called? Who's the military guy?
Rick Flag.
Rick, yeah, and he says whatever.
Dick Flag.
He's like, whatever, it's over. You guys can go if you want, kind of thing. And the Boomerang guy says like, cool.
And pieces.
Yeah, and
I
runs
love that. And I love that.
Yeah, same. And then they all get into that fucking gay ass like flying V as they're walking down the street toward the Act 3 big blowout kind of thing. And then he kind of just steps back in line, which is supposed to look cool, but there's no reason for that. Like, why?
Yeah, he should have just ran off.
Yeah.
That would
He
have been
should
so
have
much
been like
funnier.
the villain of the movie that was like working with the other
Or
character.
have him come back at the very end like a boomerang
And then
comes
I
in.
don't fucking understand where like they all go into the bar and they're like, oh, we need to drink, and then Katana, who is supposed to be was never a villain in the first place, is like hired by the government to be a good person, and then she just looks at Rick Flag and like goes in. Like, what did he do that was so bad that like her, like a morally upstanding character from the beginning would be like, oh, I need to go drink
hired
with the
help.
villains.
She's not a villain, and all the villains are like, oh, sweet, like we don't have to do anything. Let's go into this bar. And then she walks with them. Yeah, it was kind of.
It had the potential to be a really fucking awesome scene, but it ended up being like group therapy in a bar that was like,
Yeah.
it was.
I mean, I like the bar scene.
I
It
liked the
was
scene.
character
It was just,
building.
yeah.
It
But I
was
feel like they didn't go deep enough, and like Diablo's like scene and that came like out of nowhere, where they're all like drinking. He's just like, oh, by the way, this is why I'm so sad all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that person that when they drink, they just get really sad.
But I don't. Also, the fucking dancing woman made out of fire. I hated that. What
Yeah.
was that?
I wish there had been a dancing dude and he just bends her over.
But, like, what-
giving it
what-
to
what
her,
I- what I-
just raw
Kevin!
dog,
Stop. what I did like is that when
Big Sean style.
when they're showing like him in his old family life, kind of.
Why were his
he
kids
kind of-
so ugly?
He does this thing where like his wife's making dinner and then he like spanks her like hard on the ass kind of, and I kind of thought that was part of like his kind of like, I'm a gangster, I'm doing this because I have control over you, kind of.
Yeah.
A lot of people are scared of me, whatever, and then he burns the house down or whatever. But then when they go and everybody's kind of having the vision of their ideal, like what they want out of life kind of thing, like at the very end of the third act.
I got that, but I also didn't get that. We'll get into that later.
What I didn't like is that he, like, I kind of like just thought it was gonna be him and his kids like watching TV because like that's the simplicity. That's like the simplicity of like my whole family's dead. If I could just fucking sit on the couch with them and watch TV, but instead she's like, I'm gonna put the keys together, kids to bed, and then I'm going to suck your dick.
Yeah,
and it was kind of like, no,
that's how he knew.
Leave the sexuality like in like his gangster life of like, yeah, like smack. I was about to smack my soda. Like,
if I could just fuck my wife again.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, put the keys to bed. I want to fuck my wife.
I just feel like a lot of the focus in this movie was misplaced. Like I feel like something that was sorely underdeveloped was Cara Delevingne's character as Dr. Moon before she became Enchantress. Literally, we had like 4 lines as Dr. Moon.
Yeah.
Whereas she's more recognizable as Enchantress as opposed to just the main character of Dr. Moon, which is like the character that Rick Flag is in love with, is the whole reason he's like involved in this entire mission. And like he's a pretty big part of the entire thing. Like I feel like they could have developed their relationship besides just saying, oh, they're in love with like one scene, and also just her as like a person separate from Enchantress, because like when you would just see Cara Delevingne, you're kind of like, okay, that's sort of the same face as Enchantress. Like it didn't really feel separate enough from like Enchantress and not developed enough, especially for being the main villain of the entire movie. It was kind of just like, oh, here's Cara Delevingne. She has an alter ego that is Enchantress whenever you say Enchantress, and she does bad shit because she's from the past and doesn't understand stuff. Like I don't think they developed Cara Delevingne's character
right
as much.
Yeah. There's a whole thing in the comics about that where basically Enchantress isn't Enchantress. Like Enchantress is actually a good guy, but it ends up that she gets possessed by these other people from like the Shadow Realm or the Shadow Hive, whatever the fuck it's called. And so basically the villain in Suicide Squad is actually Succubus and her brother Incubus, which are these 2 bad guys.
I found a reason to change who I am.
Joe, we don't have the rights.
That's Hoobastank, not Incubus.
Oh, fuck, that is Hoobastank.
Very similar sound. Yeah. We all confused Hoobastank for Incubus at one point.
Whatever the lyrics to Drive are.
What did Hoobastank do besides that song?
Crawling in the dark or whatever.
No, they didn't.
Crawling in my butthole.
I'm just kidding. I don't.
So anyway, there's Succubus and Incubus, and those are the villains in Suicide Squad, but it's never fucking said because
they do look different because Witch or Enchantress does look different from her final form at the end.
Yeah.
So is that supposed to be Succubus? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Enchantress like Gollum thing, that's Enchantress, and then Succubus is the actual villain.
This doesn't really have a lot of source material per se.
It has source material. It's just not fucking said in the movie. And it's like, why the fuck would you just not make that clear to people? I don't know. Because Enchantress is an actually really cool
I feel like
character.
the entire thing, especially you can tell from the trailers, like the entire driving force for anyone wanting to see Suicide Squad is
Margot Robbie's ass.
That and someone else playing the Joker. Like,
yeah, literally, they could have
Joker he still seems like such an unnecessary character to this movie.
They could have just made a Harley Quinn and Joker movie, and it just would have been a...
This
would have been a, why did we need to go into this?
Yeah.
Why?
It's like the DC universe should be making established movies before they make ensemble movies.
It's
like Harambe shouldn't have gotten shot in the head!
So you guys want to show some fingers?
Dicks out for Harambe! Dicks out for Harambe!
I have neighbors.
It's not nighttime yet. It's dinner time. We're just replacing telemarketers right now.
I'm just picturing like, Mommy, I can't eat.
Dicks out for Harambe!
Why won't they stop taking their dicks out for Harambe? I don't know, honey.
He's been dead for months.
I don't know how they're helping Harambe with their dicks out.
This isn't even topical anymore. Why are they bringing it up?
It's a meme, I guess.
It's because Kevin's from Maine and everything's dated there. So anyway, guys, I have a podcast now.
But do you guys want to do fingers, or do you have more to say about this, or...
I mean, I could probably talk about this forever, but it's probably...
we can probably do closing arguments.
Let's do some dicks out for fingers.
Let's finger some... Let's finger some dicks right now.
All right.
You guys ever experiment with that? You gauge your dick holes at all? Slip a finger in there?
Kevin's talking about finger catheters and shit.
Hey, I live alone. Twizzlers feel good in buttholes. It's all about experimenting, guys. Love your body.
Hashtag Riley's guys. If you think
Riley, who's she going to pick?
Hashtag Whiskey Icarus if you've never seen it.
There's just Nick, who's just pretty like just fun-loving humor, and
Let's-
then there's
no,
then
real-
there's
real-
Joe, who comes in with like.
Let's be honest, guys. This is some real shit right now. We're talking hashtag Riley's guys. Who are you gonna vote for? Trump? Bernie? Motherfucking Kevin coming in. I don't know, kind of like super wasted. Not hot, maybe slippery. I'm coming in slippery,
In his
like
boxers.
a fucking noodle. Yeah. I put shorts on because I went out to smoke a cigarette and I can't go out in my underwear in Joe's neighborhood. Apparently that's inappropriate. I can do it in Maine! I can do whatever I want in Maine! I'm from Maine!
Okay.
The Revenant!
show some fingers, end this episode.
We've lost
End it!
complete control from the beginning. We lost complete. Okay,
Joe, finger me!
Oh no! This is your first episode. I'm sorry.
Hey guys.
So, I don't really have a lot to say about this film. I think it was fun. I think it was intended to be fun. I think there's definitely something else on the cutting room floor. Maybe, again, I think this whole idea is just kind of stupid to begin with. And, I'm just trying to talk as fast as I can, so whatever Kevin's trying to say. I don't know. I think David Ayer is... I don't know. I don't think he has what it takes to make, like, a comic book movie, really. He seems to make, like, these kind of, like, noir, pulpy movies. And it's good for introducing all of these characters.
Whoa. Real quick, I just recognized something. David Ayer loves slick back hair.
Yes.
Joker.
Yes.
Training Day. Fury. Where's other movies?
Fast and the Furious.
Slick back hair. Holy shit. Whoa, guys.
Guys, Fast and the Furious.
What?
Yeah, Paul Walker has
Paul
slick
Walker
back
has
hair.
slick back. He used to have
it?
slick back hair.
Yeah. Dude, guys, I think...
was
David Ayer
It
look-
was 2001.
Mike, Google that shit. FBI, hack it. Does David Ayer have slick
Oh
back
my
hair?
gosh, yeah. Have you seen him?
Wait, does he?
Yeah.
He's got pretty.
Oh my god!
Wait,
no,
does he have-
he's pretty bald.
He's
now.
minimal hair.
He's got shaved head.
not-
Is it
like-
slick back? Is the comb over slick back?
I think that's comb over.
Hang on, guys. I have to hack
No,
this.
his hair's pretty
I have to hack
shaved
it.
right now. He's got
Is
like
it?
shaved hair and like a goatee.
I've seen pictures of him.
Is
where
his
he
goatee
has-
slick back? Are his pubes slick back?
But
Joe, end it.
okay, but basically, I think the characters kind of fizzle out. I think it had a strong opening. I think it had a strong first act. I think there's a lot of mistakes. I think there's some shining moments in this. I had fun. A lot of the jokes landed for me. I think it kind of had a tonal consistency for the most part for what it was, and it was still a really bad movie. It was still anything that's come out of DC since, and that's the other thing. It's like that's like people loved like the Batman, like Rotten Tomatoes loved like the Batman movies. They loved like all these other. It's like Rotten Tomatoes has nothing against DC. It's just whoever's being put in charge of these new
Zack
movies.
Snyder's DC.
Yes. I could see
there's
this.
a
I
new-
could
there's a new
see
guy
the
in
Zack
charge
Snyder.
now.
It
in
is
this
a
movie.
shit show. Were the
But-
original Christopher Nolan movies Warner Brothers?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not Warner Brothers.
No.
It's just...
It's who. Yeah. But anyway, I don't think DC had a large hand in what he was doing with those movies, though. I think it's DC's involvement.
Yeah, they were like, he
in-
did Sin City, he did 300,
Right.
he knows what
and
he's
it's, and
doing.
it's Zack Snyder.
I don't think
getting
DC even had a
progressively-
movie division at that point. Whereas
Right.
since Marvel started, they were like, "Oh, Marvel
Exactly.
movies."
Yeah.
We're gonna start
Right.
that.
I mean, what it comes down to is that DC needs to start putting Stan Lee in their movies. It doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense that old man sells tickets.
If there's one consistency in all of Marvel's movies,
It's
that there's
Stan
the
Lee.
same
guy.
He's been in it since the beginning.
Okay, but I'm gonna give it 2 fingers.
Just 2? Not 1 in the stink?
Peace.
Just 2 in the pink?
Yes.
you can divide them up if you want.
It's conservative.
I mean,
Tonight.
you can do 1 in the pink and 1 in the stink, but that's kind of awkward to like do unless you
Splitting
do an index and a
All right,
pinky.
Mike, would you like
but
to
then you're-
rate the movie
Then you're
next?
doing like the rock on symbol, and then it's like, Joe, what are you doing right now? Are you trying to be cool? Are you trying to be a hip dad? I'm just trying to finger somebody right now. And you know what? Those 2 fingers just aren't cutting it.
So I didn't like this movie. Yeah, I thought I thought the tone was very inconsistent throughout. I thought it was painfully obvious that there was a movie that David Ayer shot, just because the actual like visual tone of the movie is very dark, literally just dark. It's a dark movie. There's not a lot of bright scenes. There's a lot of high contrast. There's a lot of just like dark looking material. Like all the characters look kind of like manic. Their makeup's messed up. Like,
I was
not necessarily like gory, but dark. Like,
I was saying in the front row, Mike, and it was
pretty
still
close
it was hard to see what the fuck was going on in this movie because it was so fucking dark. And I see these high contrast pop shots that are popping up on like review sites and stuff like that, where it's like I keep seeing that iconic shot where all the characters are surrounding Rick Flag in that like office building scene, and they're all surrounded around him. And it's like, oh, I can actually see what's going on in this scene. But when I saw it in the movie, it was like, what the fuck is this muddy mess?
Yeah, and like you can, I feel like you can tell exactly what was reshot for the movie, like all like the punchlines. It feels like. And especially now that I've read that supposedly a lot of the recuts were done to make the movie seem more like the trailer, where the trailer was very successful, and then I think DC saw the actual cut was darker than that and not as fun. And then especially after Batman vs Superman doesn't do as well, they try to make it more punchline driven and more just a fun movie. So like that compared with like the soundtrack, that seems like that's something that was like thrown in like after the fact, like, oh, like just throw in these like fun like classic rock songs and like Eminem and Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah, I love that Eminem is dad rock now.
No, it felt out of place. Like when Eminem came on, it felt out of place. Like, I don't like hearing that alongside other like classic rock songs. Or 20 seconds of a classic rock
I
song.
would consider Eminem classic rock at this point.
And then it just a lot of like the punchlines, I feel like you could tell what was thrown in as a punchline and what was already in the movie. Like, because they just kind of like came out of nowhere and you're like, oh, okay, I guess we like laugh now. Like the one scene that was like really painful was like when they rolled everyone out in like a wheelchair or whatnot, and then Boomerang comes out of like the like potato bag that he's in, just like
and starts punching people,
and like he just starts, but like that just felt like so out of nowhere. It just, the entire movie just felt like,
because Australians are criminals.
Yeah, all over the place. God, Kevin,
I'm trying to keep a leash on you right now.
You can't put a bomb in my neck.
It felt like it was overcompensating for what Batman vs Superman was. Where, if you've listened to the podcast before, I enjoyed Batman vs Superman, but it obviously wasn't a perfect movie, and it definitely could have used some more punchlines. Whereas this felt like it went too far, and it felt like they could have switched places. Like this was the movie that needed to be like dark, and not really having a lot of punchlines. Like we needed to feel people like dealing with like the existentialism of like being a villain and like having killed millions of people, and like, is that really who you want to be forever? And you know, is there a better way to live? And like these are questions that like we could have tackled, but instead we just had everybody is a bad person in this movie. Like even Viola Davis's character, who is a good character in terms of it's well acted, but like they have the one scene where she literally just murders like 5 to 10 people in the office room because they don't have the clearance. And then they basically just turn her into like the bad guy of the movie in like a heartbeat.
Suicide Squad needed more piss jokes. Batman versus Superman needed more Will Smith. And more Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie? I keep getting that confused.
It fails to do what like Avengers did, where I didn't think the first Avengers was good by any means. But I think the first Avengers at least benefited from having set up the original characters somewhat before the first Avengers came out. Even if not all of them. And yeah, this needed like individual movies to come out beforehand to set up these characters, because I didn't care about any of them. And then once like Viola Davis wasn't a good guy, and then even like Rick Flag's character has the line where he's like, oh, like I've buried like a few mistakes before.
What the fuck was
I would have
that?
cut that line completely, because he could have been the driving force of the movie, where it's like he's motivated by love. He loves the Cara Delevingne character. He accepts her for, you know, even being part of like the Enchantress character. But then they throw that line in, and it's like, God damn it, like he's supposed to be like the all-American guy. But he's fucking like killed people. So and now, not only through that line do I not like Rick Flag, but I don't like the entire American government in the perspective of this movie.
Like, which was what I was talking about earlier, where like the American government is put in the same place as these villains, but also the Rick Flag character, like he literally sends his friend down there, who's like the guy that's like stood behind him, like hasn't said any lines, but like has been there the entire time. Okay, you're gonna go and set off this bomb that is set for 1 second and fucking die.
Yeah,
like
literally a suicide.
yeah. Like he sends that guy down to go set off the bomb.
And that's the other thing is that like besides like the one Indian character Slingshot, who they don't have like a title sequence to like set up his name, so we don't fucking care about him at all.
Yeah.
He's the only member of Suicide Squad, quote unquote, that actually dies in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
It's supposed to be a suicide mission,
and
I
he
would've
dies
fucking
because he's a
loved
stereotype.
for one of these characters, like especially like Boomerang, who we're obviously not going to get like a Boomerang solo movie. Like no one. Really
Who knows, Mike? Don't.
After this, I feel like we're definitely not.
Yeah, eat your words right now. We're gonna get Boomerang solo.
No, I think
movie.
we're definitely not. We may get like a Deadshot and like a Harley Quinn, but like I feel like DC is like probably not going to spend as much money.
But Mike, he also
as
has a
they could.
unicorn in his jacket.
Oh,
you know
God.
who else
I'm
loves
so glad you
unicorns?
brought that up, 'cause
You
I
know
haven't
who
had a
else
chance-
loves unicorns? You know who else loves unicorns? You know who else loves unicorns? Ryan Reynolds. Guys, get it? The unicorn horn is a
They
penis.
even had that like in like the character like introduction graphics where it was like all a different font, and then for like it was like pink unicorns. He loved that, and I would have been okay with that if that was supposed to be like comic relief with like a purpose, where like because we had no reason to believe that he should want to be a part of this. He fucking left at the one scene where Rick Flag smashed the phone and was like, I have nothing over you. If you want to help, blah blah blah, help.
Yeah.
And then he comes back for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
I don't think he's not even there when Harley Quinn says like, do you guys have anything better to do? Which is the only reason that Croc and essentially Diablo are there. You can kind of
Katana.
understand Diablo.
Yeah.
You have no fucking idea why Croc is supposed to be there.
yeah.
And then Boomerang just happens to walk back in, and it's like maybe if, like you could have done something with the pink unicorn where like maybe like Enchantress like took the pink unicorn.
Oh my god. That would
And that would have been like, all right, then you're committing to like the fully like punchline. This is a funny movie, like trying to compete with Deadpool type shit, but you didn't, and you still had like the half dark shit, and you can't like it's got a foot in like both doors at the same time.
Yeah,
and it
I
doesn't
totally
fucking
felt that
work
way.
in any fucking sense of the
Yeah,
word.
it's that whole the reshoots shouldn't
And it's
have
literally
been done.
it's just like ADD and chaos the entire movie. Like there was no point where I felt like it settled down. It was like this is what this movie is.
Right.
It felt like it's literally like a 50-50 compromise between what David Ayer wanted the movie to be, which is obviously based on the visual style, based on what they spent years like filming,
a serious movie. Yeah.
or at least darker. I know he probably wanted some sort of a lighter sense just based on the characters that are in it, but it was supposed to be darker and more violent and like more serious. And then you can tell that like Warner Brothers or DC at the last minute was like, well, throw in a bunch of these soundtrack songs to make it seem lighter, even though they make no sense for this scene.
Guardians of the Galaxy was popular. Deadpool was
and
popular.
then like throw in a bunch of these like recut, reshot like punchline scenes. And it ends up coming out like a fucking mess. Like it was a fucking headache. I really, really hated this movie. So I'm gonna give it one finger overall.
Only one?
That's
One
fair.
finger. I don't.
Mike,
I don't think
are
much.
you at least working that G spot with that finger?
It'll be twirling around, but it's one finger.
Is there a tongue involved, or there's just that one finger? Do you lick
On
it?
that note, I'll pass it off to Kevin.
Do you lick it first, or you
Alright.
just stick it in there
Kevin,
dry?
let's hear your review. Mind you, again, there's a child downstairs, and Kevin, I think we've had enough of the Crown Royale. We still got a whole night to
we
get
gotta
ahead of
get
you.
that effect in. Ooh yeah. Anyway, hello, ladies and germs. So yeah, I came into this movie. So something I'm gonna be talking about on my podcast episodes. We're gonna be talking about Suicide Squad and reviews in general, but I wouldn't have seen this movie if
Right.
not for this review. If not, had Joe and Mike asked me to be on this episode, which I always love being on the show. It's tons of fun. But because of the reviews and because of the fact that I don't really like DC as much as I like Marvel, I wouldn't have seen this film. And I went into it because of that with zero expectations. I know the reviews were bad, but I purposefully did not read reviews. I didn't watch reviews on YouTube. I completely shut myself off. It's not that hard to do in Maine. Literally, no one in there even has the internet or knows what a computer is. That's an exaggeration, but it's pretty bad. But I went into this movie basically completely blind, and I didn't hate it, which I was expecting to. from the reviews, from the fact that all of these DCU movies have sucked. I honestly, Mike and Joe constantly yell at me for this, but I don't really like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies ever either. I really like The Dark Knight. Batman Begins is cool because as Scarecrow is a villain who's a very underutilized Batman villain, but The Dark Knight Returns sucks. It was awful.
Definitely the worst of the trilogy.
Yeah, it's a horrible movie, has tons of inconsistencies, it's awful. I hear Batman vs. Superman sucks. I haven't seen it, so I can't say that. But once again, that's one of those situations where the reviews are so bad that I'm reluctant to ever see this movie, which is something that I'm going to talk about on my own podcast. I haven't seen Man of Steel for the same reasons, although my brother loves that movie and says it's a great movie. He's a big Superman fan, big DC fan. So going into this movie, I wasn't expecting anything. And I enjoyed it about as much as I enjoyed watching X-Men Apocalypse, which I expected a lot from because I'm a big X-Men fan. And so possibly that's the reason for me enjoying that movie as much as I expected big things from X-Men. I didn't expect anything from this movie, and I enjoyed them about the same. I really liked Deadshot's character. I really liked Harley Quinn's character. I thought the overt racism in this movie was horrible. The stereotypes were horrible. Some of the choices in music, editing, were bad, but I was able to ignore them. They didn't really bother me that much. Maybe watching this movie again, I would enjoy it less. But just going into it completely blind and seeing it for the first time, I didn't hate it as much as I think a lot of people out there are. And I think a lot of people out there that are hating it is because they're going into it expecting to hate it. Mm-hmm. Which is something that just kind of exists in our culture. And that, you know, like, honestly, like, this movie isn't broken. Like, like when you look at video game scores or anything like that, like, to get below a 7, the thing actually needs to be broken. And movies nowadays, like, you don't have any movies coming out where a fucking boom light comes down the shot, or, you know, CG isn't completed fully, even though the effects on El Diablo look pretty bad. Or, you know, lines are delivered poorly, or you have mic skipping. So it's kind of this, we live in this culture where we expect perfection, but I mean, honestly, like, this was perfect for a bad movie, if that makes sense. Yeah. I would totally, like, take a date to this movie, or it's something fun to talk about, you know? Like, obviously, how long is this podcast going? Like, close to 2 hours, maybe?
About, yeah.
yeah. Like, we've had a great time drinking and talking about this movie. I would say that's what you should do with this. If you're not planning on going to see it in theaters, if you live in walking distance of a theater, get your friends together, have a couple drinks, go see this movie. If you don't live within walking distance, wait for it to come out on Netflix, have some drinks and watch this movie. It's a good time. It's a good teaser for what the DC universe is planning to do, which I think is kind of cool, that they're taking this complete opposite route of what the MCU has done, where instead of doing these standalone movies first, they're doing the big ensemble movies and then breaking it down into individual characters. So all these kind of ensemble movies are just kind of like a tasting platter where you're getting a taste of each individual character and it's getting you excited for the individual movies, which is interesting. I'm not saying it's good, but it's different, which is good. If they were just doing the exact same thing that the MCU is doing, I would hate it. If Jared Leto's performance had been exactly the same as Heath Ledger's performance, I would hate it and fucking burn the theater down to the ground. I'm just kidding, FBI. I like what they're taking risks, and I like that. And I can't fault them for that, because it's not a bad thing to take risks. It's not a bad thing to be different. It's not a bad thing to try new things, you know? If everything was doing the same cookie cutter medium I would be sick of superhero movies, which I'm getting to that point. So it's kind of nice to go see a superhero movie that does things differently. Doesn't mean it's good, but check it out, form your own opinion. I'm going to give it the same score I gave X-Men Apocalypse, which I think was a 3, which is a safe score. I'm sorry. I think it was a 3.
We'll call it a 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Which comes out to a two-finger average.
Sounds like my kind of score.
Sounds like Joe was right on the money.
Sounds like my kind of night.
Sounds like it was a below-average movie.
Hey boy, how about some of the Mountain Dew and Doritos later tonight? Talking about 2-1-2. 2 Mountain Dews, 2 Doritos, 2 fingers.
2 lives.
2 lives entwined.
2 holes. 2 dicks.
I got 2 holes.
One for the plug and one for the load.
This has been an episode.
Oh wait, can I do my plugs again?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so hey, fingers. So it's Kevin. I'm really drunk right now. I'm so sorry. And Mike and
They
Joe.
haven't been able to tell before.
Mike and Joe are just looking at me so condescendingly. So anyway, it's Kevin. Check out Media Boys podcast. We'll have the SoundCloud link below, the Facebook and the Instagram and the Twitter and all that good stuff. We're doing a whole month of Jurassic Park, so a whole month of dinosaurs and hilarious childhood stories from me and Bill growing up. We grew up with these movies, so it's a lot of us discussing the hilarity behind that. And we'll have a Suicide Squad episode coming up after that and talking about reviews. We'll also be talking about some video games in the future, Dark Souls, Overwatch. Definitely after that, we'll be doing some episodes on some anime series, probably Attack on Titan. Lots of good stuff in the future. Yeah, lots of good stuff coming up. And definitely we'll be taking questions on our Twitter account and responding to those. So look out for that.
What's the Twitter
Do you have
handle?
the Twitter up yet?
We do have it up, but I don't have the link. So check the description of this podcast because I'll give it to Mike later because I'm too drunk to look at my phone.
Something Media Boys. Harambe.
Harambe.
Harambe!
Is there anything that
Yes!
is there anything that we need to plug or anything, or is this
Just check us out everywhere, and remember that we have the contest going on.
I got
think
a
when this
hole that
comes
you can
out,
plug,
it'll be
baby.
like 2 weeks left in the contest. So,
Yeah,
How Many Fingers Podcast.bigcartel.com to buy one of those koozies. Tag us on Facebook, facebook.com/How Many Fingers Podcast. In a
Send us some
selfie,
selfies.
you'll be entered. We would love some more selfies. We've got 1 official entry so far.
You guys can
Hopefully more by
expect
the
some
time this
selfies
comes
from me.
out.
They won't be posted on our.
They'll be posted. You can expect the Big Sean coming through,
A
baby.
pixelated selfie
Oh
posted.
boy!
That koozie's gonna be nice and snug.
But, yeah, check out all those links.
I can fit a 10-ounce can, right?
Let's get the fuck out of this episode.
Let's get dicks out for Harambe. Dicks out for Harambe. Woo!
Signing out for How Many Fingers the Podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Kevin!
And dicks out for Harambe.
Dicks out for Kevin.